requires patience, sacrifice, compromise, vision, endurance, realism, ruthless focus, and determination.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. This is the Regions Briefing, and I will be actually taking on Sister Nisa's role as the host of the Regions Briefing, just for this particular session, because I will be interviewing Sister Nisa, because our topic for the Regions Briefing today is going to be South Africa, and some very interesting and important, actually, things that are going on in South Africa, particularly with regards to allegations of corruption and so forth, and the infiltration of the government by potentially, or law enforcement rather, by organized crime, and what the government is trying to do about it. This is something that's very, very internal to South Africa that most people are not going to know about unless they are either South African or very much follow politics in South Africa. But that's part of what we're trying to do with Middle Nation, is to keep our members, Middle Nation members informed about all of the different parts of the world, all of the different countries in the world, all of the different regions in the world, not only where there are significant numbers of Muslims, but countries and regions that are particularly important to the rise of the Global South. And as you know, South Africa is a founding member of BRICS. So South Africa is a very important country. It's one of the most important countries, if not the most important country in Africa at this time, relative to, say, Nigeria or Egypt, of course, but it's an extremely important country. So we want to make sure that our members are well informed about what's going on in South Africa, and who better to talk to about that than our own Sister Nisa Bardien. So, can you tell us what's going on now?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Shield. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to the listeners that's tuning in. So South Africa, there is a number of things going on. And like you mentioned, these are important developments within the country. For example, our topic today is about the Madlanga Commission. So South Africa has just fallen 50 places in the global safety rankings, and one of the biggest drops in recent years. And while that is happening, the country is dealing with the Madlanga Commission, which is continuing to do its work, which is exposing layers of corruption within the justice system. President Cyril Ramaphosa, he launched the commission after the KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi blew the whistle on political interference and deep corruption in law enforcement. And his testimony confirmed what many South Africans have long suspected in any case, that organized crime networks are working with people inside the police and intelligence agencies or intelligence services. Now, Ramaphosa couldn't ignore it, because if you remember earlier this year, South Africa went to the White House. They spoke to Donald Trump, and that is where Ramaphosa said that South Africa faces a serious criminality problem. And when on top of this, his top police generals came forward with these claims of syndicates, as he called it, within the police services or in the justice system. Silence is no longer an option. So the key question is really, does this Madlanga Commission bring a real change? Or is it just another polished headline about accountability? So, for example, the commission investigates claims, or what the commission does, it investigates claims that organized crime groups have infiltrated South Africa's justice system, from the South African Police Service, which is SAPS, the Crime Intelligence Unit, as well as the National Prosecuting Authority, which is the NPA. Now, its job is to find out whether senior officials and political figures worked with criminals, interfered in investigations, or even block justice. And the hearings are still ongoing, but the commission is taking an unprecedented approach. But this time, the enforcers of the law themselves are under investigation. And it's not just about political killings. The commission covers all corruption and crimes committed by law enforcement officials.
Okay, so can you give us some examples actually of what types of corruption allegations, or what's the basis? I mean, what are they accusing law enforcement of doing at the behest of organized crime.
Now, Ndlanda Mkanazi was backed by crime intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo, who then testified about existence of what we call the Big Five, a network of high-ranking officials, businessmen, underworld intermediaries operating inside state institutions. So some of the names that were mentioned, I'm not going to mention all of them, but some of the names that were mentioned was Senzo Mkhunu, the former Minister of Police. His alleged links to criminal syndicates, interference in investigations, dismantling of KZN political killings, task team. We've got Shadrach Sibia, Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection in SAPS. He was allegedly removed, politically sensitive case dockets, about 121 police case files, and he shielded officials under political orders. We've got Fani Masimola, National Commissioner of SAPS. He's accused of following political orders to disband the PKTT and interfere with police processes. And then we've got Natim Tetwa, who is the former Minister of Police, as well as the ambassador to France. He's accused of obstructing justice in Richard Mdluli's prosecution and blocking disciplinary cases. So these are some of the officials named in the hearings. Those are the prominent ones we've heard so far. They are not minor figures. They are people responsible for law and order in South Africa. The Commission's findings suggest that the system may have been compromised from within. So let's look at political killings as an example. Political violence has become a grim reality in South Africa, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, where you'll find that councillors are being shot in their driveways. Whistleblowers disappear. Police case files are vanishing. Organized crime has spread into the police and intelligence services, weakening the state's ability to act. Now, there are stats. The numbers, they tell a story. Since 2018, KwaZulu-Natal has seen 331 political killings, and between 2020 and 2022, politically motivated killings rose from 24 for the year to 40, with KZN accounting to over 50% of that number. Since 2011, at least 52 councillors and 103 municipal officials have been assassinated in politically linked contexts. Now, each of these numbers represent a life lost. And bear in mind that I'm speaking about political killings. I'm not talking about South Africa's murder rates, which is at least 58 a day. So we are looking at 20-something thousand for the year. These are just the political killings that I'm speaking about. So each number represents a life lost, and the justice system too compromised and therefore also very paralyzed to act on fixing this problem that we are experiencing. Now, what makes this commission a little bit different? For once, the commission has acted faster than usual. For example, Senzo Mkhunu, he was put on special leave July 25. Shadrach Sibia was suspended in September 2025 pending investigation. Not the only two suspensions, but they are still being paid while they are being suspended or on special leave. And that is all of them and the others that I haven't mentioned as yet. Now, that is what makes it slightly different to previous commissions. These mid-commission suspensions are unusual, like I said, because previous inquiries like the Zondo Commission, Siriti, Marikana, often took years before anyone faced any consequences. And in many cases, nothing was done about it. In fact, our current president went on to take office without any impact from early investigations in the Marikana massacre. So it's important to remember that although suspensions happened, it does not equal to justice. It's a temporary pause and not a prosecution. And I'd also like to speak about Natim Tetwa. As I mentioned before, he was also implicated earlier on. What happened was a very shocking development within the entire process in September. South Africa's ambassador to France, and former Minister of Police, Natim Tetwa. He was found dead after falling from the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Regency in Paris. And his wife had reported him missing earlier that day, that he died, and he had also sent a message to her apologizing and expressing his intent to end his life. French prosecutors said the Windows safety lock appeared to have been tampered with, and there were no signs of a struggle, and no drugs was found in his system, no substances were found in his system. So while it looks like suicide, obviously his family, probably because of mourning and grief, they are rejecting that conclusion, and they're calling for a full inquiry. Now, the point that I'm trying to get to is just 11 days before his death, Mtetwa's name had come up in the Madlanga Commission. He was accused of obstructing justice in the Richard Ndluli case. That case involved the former head of crime intelligence, who faced charges of corruption, abuse of office, and interfering in politically sensitive investigations. Now, Mtetwa was said to have blocked disciplinary actions and protected Ndluli from prosecution, but now he's gone.
Okay, now you've flooded us with a lot of information that's going to be very new to most people who are listening to it, I think. As I said earlier, to introduce this is very internal to South Africa, that none of the names that you mentioned will be familiar to most people, and even their titles aren't going to be familiar. But I think that anyone and everyone who listens to what you just said, one of the first questions that will come to anyone's mind is, if we're talking about specifically political killings, what would be the motivation of organized crime to assassinate politicians, unless those politicians were active against organized crime? What would be, I mean, generally speaking, if there's a political killing, it has been organized by a political faction, not by organized crime. Organized crime might have been hired to carry it out, but someone else has commissioned that crime to be committed, has commissioned that assassination to take place. Generally speaking, unless we're talking about crusaders against corruption within the politics, council members and so forth, who are crusading against corruption and have gotten on the wrong side of organized crime and mafias and so forth. If that's what we're talking about, that's one thing. But if we're just talking about people who have political opponents getting assassinated, well, it would raise a lot of questions about who would have been motivated to order an assassination like that.
It's a mixture of all. It is about, firstly, power. Very little about wanting that position that councillor is in or that political person is in, but it has a lot to do with the fact that unseating and exposing corruption. So that is when you would find that somebody would be then killed, because they are the ones that is, like you said, they're crusading against corruption, and they want to unseat it. They want to get rid of that rot, and that is when they are then killed, because they are leading this campaign, and they're obviously reaching and making a dent in something or somewhere in the process, and that needs to be stopped at all levels. And the fact that this type of corruption happens at ground level, which is like your ward councillors and that type of thing, and it also happens in the senior level. Those are your Natin Tetwas that are meant to be the ones that is supposed to uproot those and remove those people that is causing corruption, but they are the ones that are also participating in this. It shows you that it has a lot to do with the fact that our country is a system, or is operating on a system where law and order is not the order of the day, and it is meant to keep us in perpetual unrest and perpetually fighting each other, focused on crime and not fixing crime, because our government is being influenced through policies, economic policies, things that, especially from the West. I can see the mirror of what is happening in South Africa, and you look at what is happening in the United States of America, and there's no ways that somebody that is looking at it can't say that it isn't, that it's not the same, that things are not the same when you compare what is happening with police brutality against Black Americans. You can see not that our police is being is targeting people the way that is happened, but the fact that our law enforcement remains corrupt and is perpetually and eternally corrupt, just like the way that the United States of America does to its own citizens. You can see the same thing is happening in South Africa. So it has a lot to do with the fact that people that influences our government. We're talking about like the Johan Rupperts and those people, the oligarchs, the capitalists. Those are the people that need us not to focus on how they are extracting wealth for themselves and keeping the country in the chaos that it is keeping it in, which then means that those that are meant to oversee the law and order and ensure that it does happen in the country, that they don't function and ensure that the system functions to our benefit. It is to their benefit, because that is what they need in order to extract what it is that they need from South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was going to say. Also, I was going to mention, because if you're having a commission to investigate, they can't prosecute, can they? This commission?
They have not been mandated to prosecute at all.
Okay, so they don't have the authority to prosecute, but the way that it's progressing so far looks like if you get sort of, I don't know what the word would be, indicted, or if it's not indicted, of course, because that's a legal term, but if you get found guilty by the commission of being someone who's or are they just asking for recommending investigations, like with the people who you said who have been suspended pending investigation?
Yeah.
So now there's a separate investigative body that's going to look into each individual case of people who've been named in the commission. Is that it?
Yes, that is it. Basically, what is happening, they're gathering information and evidence. It is a public hearing, so to say, but no prosecution. It will be recommended for further investigation at the National Prosecuting Authority, who is being investigated in this commission, mind you.
Okay.
So this commission is about themselves investigating themselves.
Right. Which I mean, historically, when we see those types of things, obviously, it's not so much a cleaning house operation as it is a brushing under the rug operation, or hanging out to dry operation for sort of the sacrificial lambs, rather than actually cleaning out corruption while putting on a performance of being anti-corruption and cleaning out the problem. Now, obviously, I don't know if that's the case with this one, since, as you say, there does seem to be more response than in previous commissions and previous investigations. I was going to ask now about the higher level officials that are named in this. Are they affiliated with any political party?
With the ANC.
Sorry?
With the ANC. With the ANC.
The ANC, all of them.
Yeah, as far as I see, yes.
Okay. Well, that's curious. Are there high-ranking officials within law enforcement who are not ANC?
No, I'll actually have to verify that, but as far as I can remember, no, there isn't. Sorry, the army, the army general, the one that is in charge of the army, he's not affiliated with the ANC, but he's not up for investigation.
Ah, okay.
I think he's with the Freedom Front, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, the far right.
Not the economic freedom fighters.
No. EFF doesn't manage any of the.
They wouldn't let them have guns. They wouldn't let them have weapons.
No.
As we already know by the case that they made against that man, Julius.
Yes. Yeah. He's got some legal troubles that he's busy work, that is busy ironing out. He was found guilty a few weeks back, like 2 weeks back or 3 weeks back, hate speech, as well as discharging a firearm in a public space. Yeah, so his sentencing will happen in January, as far as I can remember. So we'll see how that transpires. He would probably appeal it.
Sorry, what
But
now?
there's video footage.
Video footage of him firing the pistol.
Yeah, he fired a firearm in the air during a rally. And then he was guilty of hate speech about a week or two before that. So, yeah, on the surface, to South Africans, it might look like things are probably going to start being sorted out. It does look like maybe perhaps people will be accountable for things, or others would be heavily pessimistic and just say, well, absolutely nothing's going to happen. For me, I would say is once we realize that this is obviously performative, and the problem is that we need to see who is influencing government to ensure that it remains performative, that they do not take the necessary action that they're supposed to. Firstly, they all, in my book, they're all guilty of something because of the history of looking at all of them being, enthralled and engaged in some sort of scandal where corruption was concerned in the first place. But there is some body, or not somebody, not a person, but there is the Western influence of ensuring that they do not sort it out, that they do not ensure that South Africa becomes a country where law is respected, where it's not a common thing or a common occurrence, where that if you get pulled over by a traffic cop or a police officer, that the chances that you would be able to get away with something that you did wrong with by bribing is high, because that's just ground level. That means that the rot is not just for economic reasons, because the one that is in the street doesn't get paid as much as the person, like millions of rands a year, that is their salary for the directors and that of the organization. Those are just as corrupt as the one that is, that you will find on the side of the road pulling you over for some traffic fine or whatever. So it's important to understand, those that are listening, that yes, it is performative, and it's performative for a reason. It is to make you think, because Ramaphosa knew when he went to the White House and that he said that we have a crime problem, and that when Mkonazi brought it out and said that there is a syndicate, a crime syndicate within these organizations, that he knows for South Africans, he can't just leave it like that. And yes, he did call for the commission. This is Ramaphosa. He did call for the commission, but he is not meant to actually do something to sort it out. He is supposed to be there to ensure that the capitalists are the ones, or the OCGFC, but as we discuss in Middle Nation, those are the ones that need us to remain in the situation that we are remaining. And this inquiry is only meant to last for 6 months. That is from the get-go. We all know it's only going to happen for 6 months. It's not a permanent structure. It's not a permanent fixture. And how much can you uncover of decades of corruption in 6 months? If you are really going to do something about it, that 6 month window, it's what can you do in that 6 months?
Why did they put a 6 month window and not just say we will continue an ongoing, a permanent commission? Yeah, why not make it just a permanent commission?
That's a valid question, which, and it's not an answer that we have, and which sends alarm bells in my head. Like, why would you time it? Something like corruption, that should be an ongoing thing, where people, whistleblowers should be able to contact and say, 10 years down the line, this is the commission that we need to report this type of corruption and that type of corruption. So, yeah. I don't think it's that.
It sounds like it was there might be a foregone conclusion that they know it's going to take 6 months to get to. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's going to take 6 months to just tie it up in a bow to deliver to the public that these are the corrupt ones and now everything's fine. But the other thing I was going to ask is, and you've certainly touched upon this, is a much higher level of corruption. Okay, you're talking about corruption by organized crime syndicates into law enforcement. But what about the much higher level of organized crime, neocolonial crime, neocolonizers, like the Democratic Alliance, for example, that has very close ties with foreign governments, with foreign investors, with foreign businesses, foreign businessmen, infiltrating government at the highest level. That seems to me to be at least as serious and has at least as in terms of the magnitude of the impact of that level of what I would refer to as infiltration by really, if not legally criminal, morally criminal organizations like the DA or any individual politician who's actually serving, just like you can say that a police commissioner or someone at a high level in law enforcement is actually serving a crime boss or doing things at the behest of a crime boss. Now you can also have governments doing things at the behest of the #1 crime boss in the world, which is the United States. So is there any possibility, this is a rhetorical question really, is there any possibility of there being a commission that would investigate political corruption and ties by political parties with malicious actors or with anyway non-South African actors in terms of proving the transparency of their funding, for example, the transparency of for the funding of a political party, and a forensic analysis of any correlation between the policies that they endorse, the policies that they advocate, the policies that they push for, and the departments of the government that they want to have control over, that they want to be appointed into, and the economic and political interests of external actors. Is there any chance that you could have a commission like that that would actually be looking at corruption at the much higher level? Which, because of the corruption at a higher level, that's why you see the corruption at the lower level, as you mentioned. The corruption at the lower level is a reflection of the corruption at a higher level, because, as you said, the corruption at the higher level wants to see chaos. They want to see corruption. They want to see violence. They want to see strife so that no one pays attention to what they're doing. So why can't they have a commission about that? I would think that a lot of South Africans would be very interested in something like that.
Absolutely. I mean, not that it's they. I don't think they would ever, want to dig that deep into it all. And even DA, they benefit highly from this, and they are very good at narrative. Think America, smaller version when it comes to the DA. They're very good at narrative. They're very good at scapegoating. When you look at the Western Cape, where they seem to be, or where they are governing, they have this narrative of the best run city, which is Cape Town. It's clean, it's everything works, but the poverty, and you can see the difference between rich and poor, and services where you are poor, it doesn't look the same. And racism is rife there. But now the thing that the point that I'm trying to make is when you consider areas like the Cape Flats, where there's gangsterism, violence, I mean, there is constant fear for your life in Cape Town, where you have people of color, colored people, black people, any non-white people in the poorer areas, they are being gunned down by their peers because of gangsterism. And then the DA, at the same time saying that Cape Town is the best managed city in the country, they distance themselves from crime stats, and they say that it is an ANC problem. It's not their problem. They're just there to, I don't know, mow the lawn, cut grass. I don't know what it is
Yes,
that they do, make sure the potholes are fixed. But
but
they don't
mean that?
seem to, excuse me?
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just can't help but say it. They mean what they say. They say that's the best run city. That includes the crime. That's the way they want the city to be run. They mean what they
want
say.
it that way.
They're not being hypocritical. You said it's non-white people who are being gunned down by gangsterism. That's the best run city. That's by their definition, the best run city. And they would like all of South Africa to be run that way.
Absolutely. So they are good at hiding themselves from that type of thing. While it is that they, you know, their leaders are not part of, so far that I've noticed, that they haven't been implicated in all of this, but I can guarantee you they are involved, because here and there you will hear a case about corruption, and they're good at shielding and scapegoating. They're good at protecting themselves via narrative, just like the United States of America does.
Are there any of the people that you've mentioned, and I am embarrassed to say, but I'm not familiar with any of the names myself, any of the people who have been mentioned, implicated, and who are being investigated by the commission. I'm not familiar with any of these names. I'm sorry to say. I will investigate it myself. But anyway, that's what you're here for, to let us know. Are any of them white?
No. None of them. They're all people of color.
I'm shocked.
Or Indian, or yeah,
I'm shocked.
or colored. Yeah.
And we know that the ANC is losing popularity at a very drastic rate. The ANC is losing popularity, and the chances of them being able to return to government the next time when is the next election, by the way?
Next year we have the local government, 2026. So, which is why the 6-month window of investigation should be at the top of people's minds next year, when we're supposed to be voting for the local government in our areas. So I think it also has to do with the fact that they would like to finish it off on a high note just before election season starts.
I mean, it's very, you know, what we usually see in formerly colonized countries, it's a pattern that the new government takes over and just maintains the colonial system. They maintain it, but on behalf, you know, of their previously, you know, their former colonial masters, their former colonizers. They just maintain the system, and they just get to have the seat, be the front man for enforcing the colonial system. Then they can take the blame for when things go badly. So I wouldn't surprise me at all, because we know anyway what the colonizers have always said about the people that they colonized, and one of their big excuses for why they never want to leave the lands that they colonized was these people can't govern themselves. These people don't know how to behave. These people are uncivilized. These people are corrupt. These people are violent. And now you apparently, you know, allegedly, you have people in government who are seeing to it that that very stereotype is manifested and is reinforced, which will definitely be used by the DA, by the Democratic Alliance, against the ANC, because all of those figures, all of those people mentioned in this commission, all of them are ANC, as you said. All of them are non-white. So all of them are reinforcing what we know to be the very racist colonial mentality of the DA, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It comes back to the thing of wanting to appear as if they are, it's got nothing to do with them. My hands are clean. We left it in your hands back in the day, and you could not do anything. You actually took us back to a different period where they want to even make it sound sometimes like apartheid was even better. days were better then. Yes, of course, it was better for you guys. It was not better for us. So yes, that is exactly what they are doing and what they want to do, because it is in their interest to make sure that they look good on paper, obviously, except for the people that experiences and has to live under their rule in the Western Cape or in cities that is that is managed or run by the DA, because those cities also suffer from corruption. The municipalities also suffer, because funds that are being siphoned off under the DA's watch, but you don't hear those stories. It's not, it's not pushed into the media, and by the very media that is always talking about how corrupt ANC is, but never talking about how corrupt the DA is, and they are corrupt. On top of that, they are racist.
Now, you mentioned this Mtetwe, who was killed, or I'm sorry, who died in Paris, right? Who was the ambassador or former ambassador to France.
Ambassador at the time, yeah, he
I'm
was
sorry?
the ambassador. He was the
At the
sitting
time.
ambassador at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if that was not a suicide, and the fact that he was named in the commission supports the idea that he might have had a motivation to end his own life, but also there's equal reason or reasonable cause to also suspect, given the nature of the allegations that are being investigated by this commission, particularly with regards to political killings. There's also, it's not unreasonable to think that he might have been assassinated and had to make it look like a suicide. But that would raise very serious questions, because it didn't happen in South Africa. It happened in France. So that would either mean that we're talking about global criminal organizations that are operating in France and in South Africa, and potentially elsewhere, obviously, who are deeply enough involved in South Africa and have interest in everything that's being exposed by that commission, or potentially being exposed by that commission, that they would take it upon themselves or would be hired to assassinate this man all the way in someone else's country. And then, if you have the French authorities going along with the narrative that he committed suicide, that could potentially implicate the French authorities involved in that, which would make it look like it was actually a political assassination carried out through political channels. So that this becomes a very big conspiracy story. Just the fact that if it's not plausible, I mean, on the face of it, it's plausible that he might have ended his own life on the basis of what he was potentially facing. But if not, that raises, it becomes a much broader issue than even corruption within South Africa.
It does. I mean, that even though there was no evidence found of, any sort of scuffle or anything in his room, that does not mean that he didn't receive any pressure, external pressure, to end his own life, which would mean that, that is also important, that something that needs to be considered. So even if it is that he did take his own life, the chances are extremely high that he was pressured to do it in the first place. It is possible that that could have happened. For me, the question arises, this is a man that had top positions in South Africa's judicial system. He is accused of corruption. That wasn't the only thing that he was accused of. He's been in the South African government for a number of years, and if it is that you have been doing this, because it's not one action that is being accused of, there's a number of things that is being accused of. For me, it feels like, why would you even end your own life knowing that South Africa is lenient when it comes to accountability. You know that the chances are high that you will probably not even be held accountable, because we know history tells us in South Africa that our politicians, our government officials are not really held accountable when it comes to corruption. So that also tells me, there's a lot of things that we need to consider when it comes to why he would take his own life. We don't know what all transpired, but that question in my mind is, South Africa, you can get away with a lot. So that is not something that people actually, that's not, an action that people actually go to, and something that people would do just because of there's a case coming up. It doesn't seem as if it fits together nicely.
What's the general opinion with regards to this in South Africa, that he ended his own life or he was taken out? What's the general opinion among the people?
Among the people, obviously, a lot of people will jump to that it was taken out. I think a lot of people will go with that because, like I'm saying, we know that you probably would not have been held accountable. There's a high chance, or you would have gotten, a rap over your knuckles or something like that. Whatever it is that you have been accused of, the chances that you would have really had to pay for what you have done is not, it probably wouldn't have happened. So there are others that don't want to be mentioned. So a lot of people are feeling that he was taken out. Yes.
I mean, obviously, we don't know. We can't really speculate.
Yeah.
He could have had any number of other personal issues we don't know about, obviously. I was just wondering I mean, when you are in a society where you have now become accustomed to political killings, then it's not a far jump for you to assume that this was another one. Particularly if he's being implicated and maybe potentially would be pressured to name others or to expose things that he's covered up, or so on and so on. That it's not unreasonable for people to suspect that there is a conspiracy behind it. But just for Middle Nation viewers, I would just say this is not something that we know. It's pure speculation, and there's not really any point in speculating about it. I just wanted to explore it because it's obviously going to be an issue that people will be talking about. It will be a political discussion probably being had in South Africa. And as I said, also, I wanted to point out also that if he was taken out, if it was a political assassination, we're talking about something that would be very, very complicated to do something like that in France. A lot of things would have to align, and a lot of factors would have to be at play in order for that to be something that you would do. It's not like taking him out in Cape Town. So just to say, be reasonable even in your speculation about that with regards to what's factually probable. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, South Africa is a member of BRICS, a founding member of BRICS. It's a very important country to the BRICS organization. Obviously, it's very well known globally for being pro-Palestinian, for bringing the ICC case and so forth. It's gained a lot of notoriety and respect as a result of the ICC case. Well, I'm sorry, the ICJ case. As I said, it's a very important country in Africa. It's been important enough to be the target of considerable hostility by the United States under the Trump administration, with phony allegations of a white genocide against farmers and so on, with these sort of comedic videos that we have of the white farmers coming to have asylum in America, and so on. There's many things that indicate the importance of South Africa to sort of the global transition. Can you tell me what you think about the role of a commission like this and the issues that the commission is addressing, regardless of it being performative? The issues are real. The corruption is a real factor, obviously. And even if it is a performative Commission, that in and of itself is an example of the corruption. This is a very serious issue towards or touching upon the actual real existing sovereignty of South Africa. Because if you're law enforcement, I mean, one of the most important things about any sovereign government is that they have full control over law enforcement. You have control over law enforcement. You can establish justice in your country. You have the rule of law in your country. The guilty will be prosecuted. The innocent will be proven so. The guilty will be punished. And the police are in your hand as the government. No one else has control over what the police do, what the prosecutors do, what the judges do, and so forth. If you lose control of the police, if you lose control of the judges, if you lose control of the prosecutors to anyone outside of the state, any private actor outside of the state, whether it's a criminal organization or it's a corporation, then your sovereignty is compromised. So what do you, just give us your thoughts on that reality of South Africa's situation right now.
I think South Africa is not fully captured from external influences. I think we are probably sitting on a fence. You know, it's a saying in South Africa. We're sitting on the fence on this matter, where we are still influenced by the West, especially the United States of America, but we also are being influenced by our BRICS partners, which is a good thing. I think that South Africa, especially ANC and most other political parties, want us to be fully focused on the BRICS alliance. And I think we are at a crossroads where we need to decide it's either or. We can't do both. And while a lot of citizens in South Africa just want us to just kick the United States of America out, and not even listen to them and not even entertain them, it is difficult to do that as long as the Democratic Alliance still has a say in our GNU, and they are still within the government, and they are still a party in South Africa, and they're still running the Western Cape. So as long as they are there with that power that they have that within the country, we will still be seeing the United States of America influencing, because they are influencing the ANC through what the DA wants. That is how the influence comes through. And because of needing to work with all parties within the GNU, you know, they tend to try and pander to every single political party, as well as exerting their own prominence every now and then, because you do find that Ramaphosa does, you know, put his foot down and it's like, no, this is what I'm doing, even though it looks like he's making a joke out of it. He does actually, you know, he does put his foot down at certain aspects. For example, the ICJ case, that was he's doing. And there are things where he looks at it from a humanitarian perspective, whereas DA look at it purely from a capitalistic perspective, in line with the United States of America. Now, for South Africa going forward, we see the world is shifting towards the multipolar world. We see that we are at the forefront. We see that we are being targeted, like you are mentioned. And those, when we understand that those are reasons, not for ego, that we are meant to actually take or act on that and turn our backs away from oppression, which is from the United States of America, and focus solely on contributing to Africa as the regional superpower that we are positioned to be, and work with other BRICS nations, the entire global south, that is not obviously Western aligned, not allies of the United States of America, because you will still find issues. For example, we had a little bit of I wouldn't say a scuffle, but you know, there was a bit of a thing with Taiwan a few weeks back, where they stopped, or they banned supplying microchips to South Africa. And our president turned around and said, well, we can go somewhere else, and the ban was lifted. It was temporary. But That obviously has a lot to do with the fact that Taiwan is aligned with the United States of America, and it is that the oligarchs within South Africa, the capitalists, the OCGFC within South Africa, are the ones that benefit, economically from this. So we see that Ramaphosa makes those moves that shows us there is a humanitarian aspect to it. It shows us that he can exert sovereignty when it matters a lot of the time. It is just that we are stuck to the United States of America because of economics, but the rest of South Africa can work together because this is something that I preach a lot when I speak to others, like online. Our middle nation values of corporate democratization, of that economic sovereignty. We as a society need to spend our money wisely, and because we are the ones that are keeping the Johan Ruperts of the world in power and keeping them, because we are shopping and using their services and buying products from them. That is why we are not the ones that are able to influence policies in government, and we need to be able to come together, work together, use our money together, and buy at ethically, or those businesses that put ethics first over capital. And we will never ever find those type of policies in the DA. So anybody that is voting DA because you are worried about a pothole that needs to be fixed, and because DA says they fix potholes, you are gravely mistaken, because you are selling yourself, you're selling yourself short. You are selling your mind short if you think that the DA cares really about that pothole and about you. They care that you belong in that pothole. That's how they see you. So corporate democratization, economic sovereignty, that is the main thing that as South Africans we need to start working towards, so that we can remove ourselves from the clutches of the West.
I mean, the DA has a problem with potholes in your road, but they don't have a problem with bullet holes in your neighbors.
Well said.
How can you vote in favor of this party? You said that they are on the capitalist line and that they always take a capitalist position. I would say that they take a colonizer position, more specifically, not really a capitalist. There's not necessarily anything wrong with capitalism in terms of thinking what's good for business, trying to build your economy and so forth through hopefully capitalism with some sort of a conscience, as we've discussed many times on Middle Nation. But they take a very colonizer approach that dehumanizes everyone except for them. And by them, we all know who I mean. They take their economic policy is neoliberalism, which, as I've talked about many times, is like it is to capitalism what the Khawarij are to Islam. It's a very, very extremist sect within capitalist philosophy or capitalist theory, where they really believe that everything should just be burned to the ground and replace everything that's a public asset should be burned to the ground and should be replaced by private business. Everything that belongs to the public should be in private hands, and any services that go to the public should be cut. Any spending that goes to the public should be cut, and basically everyone should be turned into slaves. This is really the neoliberal policy. So you can see why the DA would be in favor of it, and why America and the colonizing powers would be in favor of the DA, and that's why they infiltrated the government of South Africa by means of the DA to create this, what's it called, the GNU, the government of neoliberal unity. They call it national unity, but obviously they're not serving their nation. The DA is not serving their nation unless you're talking about nation in the racial sense, but not in the nationalistic sense. What was I going to say? Yeah, I was going to ask you, this commission is under the, okay, it's under the GNU, but with the ANC as the senior partner in the coalition government. And all of the officials who are being investigated or who are being implicated are ANC officials, as you said. Do you think that this is going to make the ANC look like they're more serious about ending corruption, or it's going to expose them as being incredibly corrupt?
Honestly, I don't think it's going to expose anything more than they've been exposed before, because we are aware when you, as a South African citizen, we feel the effects of it. So we have always known that this happens. We just understand that accountability has never happened before. And while this commission tries to give us hopes, a lot of it points to the fact that there probably might not be any sort of accountability unless something drastically changed where there is a mandate to prosecute, and the National Prosecuting Authority that is being investigated um, actually does take on the investigations and do the prosecutions. So if, until that happens, then we can see that something perhaps might happen, but each one would be a step forward, because this is the exact institutions that we have no real confidence in. It has been shown to be under the ANC, uh, but DA is involved as well. The entire GNU is responsible for it. We can't just say it is ANC. Every single one of them in government, in the GNU, is responsible to ensure that these systems and these institutions function for the public. But in terms of your question, where would ANC, would it probably change the way that people see them? Not until people are locked up, not until people are held accountable, not until any funds that has been taken, the billions of rands have been taken, the trillions of rands that has been taken is paid back. And that's going to take a very long time for South Africans to actually trust ANC. Another thing that I find, which is a very divisive thing in democracy, is we have so many political parties, but they all just DA light, ANC light. They all just little factions of ANC and DA, and at the end of the day, it keeps people paralyzed, because now you don't know whose policies works for you, whose policies don't work for you, and it seems like, and that's because history shows us that nothing really comes off of any of these commissions or any inquiries or any sort of even convictions. We've had what's his name, the former president Jacob Zuma, that was convicted, and he spent about 30 minutes in jail, and he was released. 30 minutes. I kid you not. So, and that's under the ANC. So I don't think this inquiry is really going to, or it could be 2 hours. Sorry, it was not even half a day that he spent in jail. The processing didn't take long for him, and he was out. He's still out, and it took years. That case took years for him to be convicted. So the only time can tell. But as it stands, ANC probably will even lose more support, and a lot of people, another thing with South Africans, they are feeling, they've got this, we need to do something, we need to hit the streets, we need to just be these real activists. But this is something that you discuss in your videos on Middle Nation. You can't just hit the streets. It's not just about making a noise unless the system is being challenged in a way that it can make real change. Legal processes need to be changed. Things need to be done legally. There's no point really. I wouldn't say not no point, but it's very little will come of it if you just hit the streets and expect, you protesting in front of perhaps the union buildings or whatever building it is that you need to be protesting, or you decided to protest. And that's where it falls short. If it stops there and you're not targeting the actual system, that is where the issue comes in, then no change is really going to happen. And the government, or South Africa, our the GNU is purposely keeping us miseducated or uneducated when it comes to politics, when it comes to how it is that we can change the system. And it is done like that for a reason. It is because we're not supposed to protest in a way that matters.
Thank you so much, Sister Nisa. That was extremely informative and insightful, and I think that everyone who's following Middle Nation will benefit from this very insightful and inside from the ground knowledge about what's going on in South Africa. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your insights with us. Jazakum Allah khairan.
Assalamu alaikum.